everyone, and welcome to another video. Today, I thought we'd sit down and discuss the concept of silver linings. Silver linings. You know, everyone says search for the silver lining. And it's true. There is usually good to come out of a situation, even if it's a really bad situation. That's the truth. But sometimes when you're in that moment, it's really hard to see the trees for the forest. So, how do you deal with that? First off, it's different for every person. Let's just be honest and real about that now. Second off, I think it's about putting it in perspective. You know, one of the primary things I always think about whenever I get in that headspace is I have been through worse. I will go through worse again. And the reason I use a negative scenario rather than a positive one is our minds are generally geared towards the negative. That's survival, that's instinct. So if you give a scenario to your mind where basically you're saying, you know we've been through worse, you also know feasibly, understandably, you will go through worse again than what you're currently facing, because a lot of the problems you probably have right now are probably, how do I put this, menial or small or self-fabricated, you know. Not saying all of them are, of course, but a lot of them are. They're made up by ourselves, by our own mind. If you give that scenario to your mind, I find a lot of the time it does actually help you kind of rejig things. It doesn't stop the anxiety, because the thing is, an anxious person will not stop being anxious today. Maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10. You know, maybe a shorter time, of course. But it's not today. Today is about managing your anxiety. It's not about stopping it. I had an incident the other day where I had scratched an alloy on my car, and I really love my car, and it really upset me, and the process of sorting it all out was really frustrating me. I had created that for myself, and the worry that came with it was entirely fabricated. The car is fine, it's safe to drive. No one even has noticed it apart from me. So, is it really that big? Have I gone through worse? Yes. Feasibly, I have, because not 3-4 months ago, the car was off the road for a month, because someone drove into the back of me. So I have been through worse. Factual, truthful, honest, real data that my brain can take and say, yep, you're right. And do I know that I'll go through worse again? From an administration point of view, because that's what I hate. I hate talking to people. I hate kind of dealing with that kind of admin side of like my car and like insurance and stuff like that. Yeah, in reality, I will have to deal with insurance again at some point in my life. I will probably hate it more. There will probably be more conversations than changing an alloy that I have cover for. You know, I will probably feasibly at some point have more damage happen to my car. I will have this happen again that will be worse. And I know that's sort of like a negative outlook, but it's sort of truthful, right? You go through life, if you live a long life, these things will happen to you at some point. if you speak to the 10 people you're closest to, they'll say, yep, I reversed into a lamppost. Yep, I went through a light and got, someone cut me up. Yep, someone stopped me on a runabout and sorry, I just hit the table. Yep, someone clipped me on the roundabout. There's so many things that just happen because it's life. I'm not saying it's all good. I have been there. I have been as frustrated as you're probably feeling right now. The thing is, does it get better? Yes. Will you survive this? Yes. Will you go on to do harder things than this? Yes. That is the perspective that's important. And again, it will not stop the anxiety. It is maintaining your current anxiety, because the worst thing you can do is let yourself spiral. The worst thing you can do is leave your anxiety to run rampant. Saying to people that everything will be okay, that doesn't help. Saying to people, you can manage this, or you can do something about this, or you can help this, or you are stronger than this, sometimes it can be a bit more helpful. I'm not saying it always works. I'm not saying it's a cure-all. I'm not saying it's a placebo even. But sometimes hearing that you have actually weathered worse than this before, you have been through the ringer already. And as well as this, I think what's important is to remember that life is hardship. And I know that's really deep, but it's true. We are put on this earth. We live around disease, illness, struggle, everywhere. It's everywhere. It is part of life. It is perhaps the main reason why we're here. Survival. Advancement. That comes with drawbacks. That comes with things to strive for. To stop illnesses, to gain wealth, or gain influence, or gain whatever, to do what we need to do or want to do in life. Obviously, everyone has different goals. Some of them are worthy, some of them maybe not so much. That's a different story for another time. But there's always a struggle on that path. There will always be struggle. You will always find people up against you. You will always find competition. You will always find frustrations. You will always find that. It is the truth of life. Because life is order versus chaos. Always. So, it's managing that. It's about saying, this is what everyone goes through. This is a lot of the stuff is what everyone goes through. Everyone suffers a loss. Everyone suffers issues with their personal property. Whether they've had something stolen or burned or not drowned, waterlogged, etc. Everyone's been through those things. It doesn't feel like that when you're going through it, but it is part of the human experience. And I think, again, that puts it in perspective, right? It feels more like a rite of passage. Not that that's a good thing, of course. If we could eliminate all bad things out of life, that would be great. It's not the case. So what I guess I'm saying is, put things in perspective. It gets you closer to that silver lining. It doesn't mean you're going to hit it. It doesn't mean that everything's going to be resolved. But it means you're closer to it. You're looking for it. Because that's what people say, don't they? Look for the silver lining. They don't say catch it. They don't say sit with it. They say look for it. I think that's very important. You're looking for it. As long as you're being active in finding that silver lining, trying to say, well, what went good with this? You are trying to find that positive mindset. I think that's the worthy goal. You might never get to full peace. I usually don't. Things usually kind of just dwindle away over time. And you feel like you've moved on to the next worry. But in a way, is that not peace with the old thing? There is anxieties that I had at 16 that I do not have now. I go to work and I answer phone calls 24/7. When I started my first job, I didn't dare pick up a radio to shout for someone down at the other end of where I worked. Now, I can do that. I have a lot more strength in that way. Those worries went away. So with time and experience, things can change, but time is important. anxiety is with you for longer than a day. It's been developed over longer than a day. It takes that time to undo. This isn't eating lots of food one day and taking a month to burn it off. Anxiety is built and then it's taken away. And you have to unbuild that, So, work on it. Push yourself. Find those slight moments of just damping down that anxiety level and sit in that, and then move forward, and then find the next comfort. Because the thing is, life isn't always about comfort either. We can wrap ourselves in bubble wrap, we can hide ourselves away, we can stop putting ourselves out there, but things will still find us to make us feel that discomfort, and we sometimes have to accept it and move with it. I personally believe that anyone can do things if they try. If you want to, if you have that in you. So let's try this together. I'll try, you will try, we'll try, and we'll move on, and we'll feel better for it. I hope you can look for that silver lining, and I'll be looking with you guys. Thank you guys for listening, watching. I hope you've had a great relax. I hope you have a great sleep, time zone, whatever you're doing. And I'll see you soon. For more. Bye guys.